Hare Krishna. Can you hear my voice? Am I audible? Okay, let's start. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. We have been discussing from the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We did complete the 10th chapter and I did recap it yesterday. And I did say that there will not be any recap of the 10th chapter today, but still, because 10th and 11th chapter are very intimately connected, and so therefore I will do a very, very short recap. I apologize for that. So, Rahugana, not understanding the glorious position of Jadabharata, chastises him. And by telling, oh, you are, in a very sarcastic way, he says, you are not very healthy, you are very weak, and all that. And Jadabharat responds to Rahuguna with a sincere desire to bring him the path of bhakti. He says that actually, I don't consider your words very sarcastic and duplicitous or deceitful. Actually, that would be sarcastic only if I was the body, but I am not the body. Actually, all this strength, thinness, etc., they belong to a person who is born with a body and who is identifying with the body. They do not exist with me. I don't, fatigue and all those things do not exist with me. And you called me living dead, but actually everyone's body is dead only. Is your body alive? So. And also, you said that you criticized me by telling that, you are the master and I am the servant, so I have to follow your order. But can you tell me if this master servant relationship is eternal? This question he asked. So, and then he says that other than convention, I do not at all see any distinction between the master and servant. So, who is the master? Who is the servant? If you think that I am your servant and you are my master, then please tell me how I can serve you. So, and you said that you are going to punish me. Couldn't you see that I was actually self-realized? And also, if you could not see that I was self-realized, at least, you know, you should know. You couldn't you see that I am, you know, I behaved like a madman or a dumb person. So, what would you accomplish by punishing either a self-realized person or a madman? Okay, you are not going to accomplish anything. So then he says, so in this way, when Jadabharata answered Rahuguna by quoting his own statements and giving explanation to it, uh, you know, Rahuguna was completely, he was surprised seeing these words from Jadabharata. That's when he actually realized that he then closely noticed that he saw a very soiled Brahmin thread, and then he immediately jumped out of the palanquin, fell at his feet, and begged for forgiveness. And he said, like, who are you? Are you Lord Narayana or Kapiladev moving around this world to educate people? Actually, I am not afraid of anything in this world except for offending the Brahmanas or Vaishnavas. So please speak. I am not able to understand these words that you are presenting. It is not very clear. Mm. And he says that, are you you know, uh, are you Kapiladev who is moving around this world to examine this world? Look, I am a fallen householder, a materialistic householder. How do you think I would have the eyes to see a very self-realized person like yourself? I'm sorry. So, but I do have some questions. So please kindly clarify that you said that you don't become fatigued, but it is my observation that everyone in this material world, when they engage in some physical activity, they do become fatigued. And how can you just completely neglect conventional reality and only speak on the platform of constitutional reality? Conventional reality is real, it is not imaginary. Um, and he gives the example of, yes, If rice has to be cooked, rice is put in milk, milk is put in pot, pot is only put in fire. But when pot experiences the heat of the fire, the pot becomes hard by the heat of the pot, the milk becomes hard by the heat of the milk, the rice gets cooked. In the same way, even though the jiva does not directly come in touch with the adhyatmic, adibhautik and the adhidaivik kleshas, but nevertheless, when the gross body experiences those kleshas, because of its intimate connection, the subtle body experiences the kleshas, and because of its intimate connection, the soul also must be experiencing the kleshas. How can you say, how can you deny and completely reject this conventional reality completely? Okay. And then you said that the position of the master and servant is impermanent and therefore insubstantial. Impermanent, I accept. But how can you say that it is insubstantial? If as a king, I don't punish and perform the duties of a king, I don't punish my subjects who are not following the principles properly, then, you know, is it not wrong? As a king or as a part of any of the Varnashram system, if I by engaging in that activity of that Varnashram, is that not a way of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why are you trivializing conventional reality completely? Why are you trivializing the actions performed on the bodily platform completely? Because I am performing the actions on the bodily platform, but only under the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how can you completely trivialize this by telling that, it is not at all useful? Okay. So therefore, please bestow your merciful glance on me. Please don't take my uh, offense seriously. I did not really know who you were. Mm. And even great personalities like Lord Shiva cannot escape from, they cannot escape from this mm, by offending a Vaishnava. So please be merciful upon me. So this is how Raghuguna responds. So now let's see very, very valid points. None of these points can be actually rejected in one sense. Uh, so mm, he has not whimsically spoken something without any knowledge. So let's see how Jadabharata is going to respond. Let us see if he is going to give any credit to Rahuguna for speaking quite sensible words, very sensible words. So we have to see whether Jadabharata is going to at least now give some credit to Rahuguna. So let's see. We will start with the 11th chapter now. Hmm. So this is how Jadabharata responds. अकोविदकोविदवादवादान् वदस्यतो नातिविदां वरिष्ठः न सूरयो हि व्यवहारमेनं तत्त्वावमर्शेण सहामनन्ति अकोविदः कोविदवादवादान् वदसि अशोच्यानन्वशोचस्त्वं प्रज्ञावादांश्च भाषसे गतासुन् अगतासुंश्च नानुशोचन्ति पंडिता. So Krishna starts by criticizing Arjuna for speaking like a learned man, even though very foolish. Same principle here, same words, almost same words. Here, Jadabharata is using on Rahuguna. He says, even though you are akovida, you are not at all learned. Kovida vadam vadasi, you are speaking words of a very learned person. Hmm. Ata, therefore, na atividam varishtaha, therefore you are certainly not the best amongst the learned. Surayaha, the learned people, na amananti, they do not speak. Vyavahara they do not speak of the material world. Tattva avamarshena saha, by discerning it to be the truth. So intelligent people, learned people do not talk of the material world to be truth. So truth here means we have to take it as substantial. Uh, Substantial So it's not that the material world is uh, unreal. It is not Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. The Jagat is not Mithya or unreal, but it is not substantial enough to give importance to. That's what here Jadabharata is trying to communicate. That's what here Jadabharata is giving is trying to communicate. Okay, so it is like uh, you have an examination question paper. You have an examination question paper in which there are lot of things which are written. Some of the things are written in bold. Uh, it says, oh, physics. Okay, it says in that paper physics, and you say, hey, you know what? This is written in bold letters. This is written in bold letters, and on the top of the question paper, it says physics. It says physics. That must be the most important thing. Yeah, it's most important. Everyone knows that it's a physics paper. Don't you know even that much? Okay. So focus on what is important. Focus on the questions that you know. Which are the chapters from which you have got questions? Okay. So rather than focusing on, oh, look at it, this is what is written in bold, and this is what is written on the top and in the middle of the paper. It says it is physics, physics, physics. Yeah, of course we know. So Jadabharta is not telling that, oh, there is no physics here. No. He says, yes, physics is there written in bold. We are not denying that fact. But that everyone knows. The nature of the body, everyone knows. Antavanta ime deha nityashoktaha sharirinaha. Okay. Everyone knows that the nature of the body is to deteriorate. We are not denying it. We are not telling that it is not true. But the point is that you don't have to focus on that. Focus on the higher reality. Okay, focus on the higher reality. That's what he's telling. So he says, the 11th chapter describes that the mind is the cause of samsara, that it has many transformations, and that by engaging it in bhakti, one can attain liberation. So he says, you are not learned, but you speak words of objection like those of the wise. Uh, So just give me 1 second. Okay. Hmm. Therefore, you are not the best amongst the very wise, since the wise do not speak of the material world and its objects with deliberation and truth, calling the objects substantial. You see here, he's using the same word, substantial, while giving examples since both have faults. You have given the example of the fire applied to the pot which heats the milk which cooks the rice. Okay. In this example, there is connection of the material pot with material fire. However, there is no contact of the material senses with the liberated Atma, a spiritual particle. So the example given by the analogy given by Raghuguna is a very valid analogy. It's a very valid analogy. But that analogy does not apply to a liberated soul. Okay. That analogy does not apply to a liberated soul. Okay. So for a liberated soul, um, hmm, the uh, rice is not in touch with the milk. Hmm. The rice is not in touch with the milk. Okay. You can say something like a reflection of that rice is in touch with the milk. So when the pot gets hot, when the pot is on fire, pot becomes hot, the milk becomes hot. But when the milk becomes hot, the rice will not get cooked. Eh, The rice will not get cooked because the rice is not in the milk. Okay. So the analogy given by Rahuguna is very valid for a conditioned soul like Rahuguna, but it is not valid for a liberated soul like Jadabharata. So that's what he says. Uh, In this example, there is connection of the material part with the material fire. However, there is no contact of the material senses with the liberated Atma, a spiritual particle. Thus, fatigue of the body does not mean fatigue of the Atma for the liberated soul, because the conditioned jiva is covered by the material body. The conditioned jiva experiences fatigue because of the fatigued body, which is material. Your inference fails because you cannot say that you, the conditioned jiva, are the same as me, the liberated jiva. So that is why Raghuna's arguments are very valid as long as it is applied to a conditioned jiva. As long as it is applied to a conditioned jiva. Okay. So then he continues. तथैव राजन् उरुगार्हमेद वितान विद्योरु विजृम्भितेषु न वेदवादेषु हि तत्त्ववादः प्रायेण शुद्धोऽनुचकास्ति साधुः तत्त्ववादः discussions on the absolute truth shuddha which are devoid of violence sadhuhu and passion na prayena chakasti do not generally arise vedavadeshu in Vedic statements uru vijrumbiteshu which is filled predominantly urugarhameda vitana vidya uh, with knowledge about proliferation of householders sacrifices. Does this remind you of any verse in Bhagavad Gita? Does this remind you of any verse from the Bhagavad Gita? Please type in the chat box. Let's see who gets it right. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipashchita. Okay, very good. This is a very nice verse. Vedavadarata partha nanyadastiti vadinaha. Is there any other verse also that comes to your mind? This is a very valid verse. I agree. Is there any other verse which comes to your mind? Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Correct. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. That is the verse. Correct. Okay. So discussions on the absolute truth which are devoid of violence and passion na prayena chakasti. The most important word here is prayena. Generally do not arise. Otherwise, if the word prayena is not there, okay, then the Vedas become an absolutely material, mundane literature which has no value for a transcendentalist. Okay. So the word prayena means generally, which means the majority content of the Vedas is about the three gunas. It's about the path of karma to stay in this material world. Okay. So, therefore, he says prayena. So, what Jadabharata is communicating here is that don't just quote anything from the Vedas to substantiate your point. You may be able to substantiate your points by quoting from the Vedas, but do you know that most part of the Vedas do not talk about the absolute truth, do not talk about spiritual subject matter, but it only talks about um, the three modes, Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. It talks about things within the three modes. It does not talk about something which is beyond the three modes. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. So, and so therefore, even though many of the statements that you might have quoted from the Shastras are valid statements in the Shastras, but they are statements which talk about material life, or betterment of material life. That's what it talks about. So, therefore, this is very important. We have discussed this many times. I will touch it because we have come to this point. So, therefore, just because there are verses from the Shastras which are in Sanskrit language does not necessarily mean that they are quote worthy uh, and attention worthy for devotees. Quote worthy and attention worthy for devotees. Because not most part of the Vedic literatures, including the Puranas, are not necessarily meant for practicing pure devotees. This includes Srimad Bhagavatam. This includes Srimad Bhagavatam because Bhagavatam also talks about uh, sections of Bhagavatam talk about uh, practitioners of mixed devotional service, but for the purpose of showing how they come to the platform of pure devotional service. Uh, So, any statement of Bhagavatam which comes in the form of a prescription, any statement of Bhagavatam which comes in the form of a prescription is for pure devotees. But not all statements of Bhagavatam are necessarily meant for pure devotees. For example, some of the instructions of the four Kumaras to Prithu Maharaj, very clearly the Acharyas say that was Jnana Mishra Bhakti. So those instructions were not accepted by Prithu Maharaj. Okay. There is the Narayana Kavach prayers in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But those kind of prayers are not meant for practicing pure devotees. Okay. There is Narasingha Kavach prayers in some other Purana, spoken by Prahlad Maharaj only. Narasimha Patume Kantam, Narasimha Patume Shiraha, Narasimha Patume Bujaha. Oh Narasimha, protect my hands, protect my feet, protect my eyes. This kind of prayers is not generally um, uh, chanted by practicing pure devotees, the sadhakas. These are not recommendation. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Narayan Kavach, if you see that section, it is not it is not a section which comes as an injunction given by pure devotees for sadhakas. It is not. It does not. It is a descriptive presentation rather than an instructive presentation. So, who chants the Narayana Kavach prayers in the Bhagavatam? Anyone knows? Anyone who has studied the Bhagavatam, can you tell who chants the Narayana Kavach prayers? Hmm. Who chants? Indra. Indra is a mixed devotee. And why does Indra chant the Narayana Kavach prayers? Why does he chant? Why does he chant the Narayana Kavach prayers? Protection, of course, protection. To get saved from Vishwaroop. So, to get protection. Okay, so this is not something, uh, you know, this is not something which, um, you know, pure devotees do. This is clearly, and in that whole episode, Indra is not glorified at all. Even though he chants Narayana Kavach prayers, he's not he's not glorified. Actually, Vritrasura is glorified. And Vritrasura does not chant Narayan Kavach prayers. Vritrasura chants his four famous prayers. Okay. So therefore, just because a verse is there in the scriptures written in Sanskrit language does not necessarily mean it is meant for devotees. And especially today being Ekadashi. Okay. The Ekadashi Mahatmya. Everywhere you go, ISKCON devotees are talking about the Ekadashi Mahatmya. And today is Shaktila Ekadashi. Okay. The Mahatmya story says that on Shaktila Ekadashi you can eat till or sesame seeds. Okay. But if you see This is not our practice. This is in the karma scriptures. So these kind of Mahatmya stories are heavily karma kandi actually. Whether it is Gita Mahatmya or Ekadashi Mahatmya and all these things. So these are not meant for devotees. And why is it that devotees on every Ekadashi, there are at least some 15, 20 devotees, releasing YouTube videos talking about the Ekadashi Mahatmya and all these Mahatmya stories. It is not meant for devotees. And devotees, many devotees eat till because it is recommended on Shaktila Ekadashi that you should eat. But Prabhupada never introduced it. And interestingly, none of the Vaishnava Acharyas introduced this. In Hari Bhakti Vilas also it is not given. So when recently someone approached Banaswami Maharaj and asked for a clarification, can we eat sesame seeds on Shaktila Ekadashi? He clearly said no. This is not a Vaishnava practices. This is not a Vaishnava practice. This kind of recommendation is given in the karma scriptures, but not in the bhakti scriptures, is what he said. Okay. So just because, but that does not mean that that it is not there. Such a statement is, it's not that such a statement is not there in the scriptures. It is definitely there in the scriptures. But for whom does it, for whom does it apply to? That is a very important thing. One should understand that. Uh, uh, so this is uh, this is very important. One should understand this. Uh, Otherwise, there are many statements you can quote from the Garuda Puran, you can quote from the Vishnu Puran, you know. And interestingly, the Narsingha Kavach prayers, the Narsingha Kavach prayers is actually spoken by Prahlad Maharaj only. And people say this. Hare Prabhu, you are talking about Narsingha Kavach prayers. You know, uh, uh, this was spoken by Prahlad Maharaj only. Yes, Prahlad Maharaj, but Prahlad Maharaj did not speak in Bhagavatam. So you see the actions of Pandavas in Mahabharat and the actions of Pandavas in Bhagavatam are different. So if Pandavas can play a stage show, if they can perform a drama according to the script of Krishna, can't Prahlad Maharaj perform a drama for according to the script of Narsingadev? Why can't he do that? The same Prahlad Maharaj that I will not ask for any benediction. I am not here as a merchant. I am not here as a merchant. Will that Prahlad Maharaj, same Prahlad Maharaj, go and ask Narsingadev that Narsingadev, please protect my throat, please protect my head, please protect my hands, please protect my legs? Will he go and pray? So when he is doing that, then you have to understand that is according to the script. Okay. There, Prahlad Maharaj has been requested to act like a mixed devotee in order to inspire mixed devotees to take shelter of Narsingadev. That's all. Hmm. So one should understand that. So therefore, one should not unnecessarily, uh, so those verses and those prayers which have been glorified by our acharyas, commented by our acharyas, those prayers are good enough. We don't have to introduce too many new things. Okay. So, yeah. Okay, to protect the health of our Guru Maharaj, we used to chant Narayana Kavach and Narsimha Kavach. You don't have to. This is my personal opinion. I don't know who introduced this. We don't have to do that. Uh, we can we can chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That's all. Or we can chant the Narsingha prayers. Okay. Even in Narsingha prayers, there is no, it's a glorification of Narsingha Dev. That's all. It's not like you're, Narsingha Patume Kantam, Narsingha Patume Bhujaha, Narsingha Pat. We don't do that. We don't have to do this. We can just chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and pray to Nrsimhadev, please protect my spiritual master. If it is within your desire, if it is within your desire to uh, protect him, so please protect him like that. That is good enough. So here he says, but the Mimamsakas do not consider anything except attainment of Swarga as the goal of life. Thus, what is the use of discussing the truth? Okay. So they say that the Mimamsakas. So you may say, uh, oh, you say that it is not needed, but the Mimamsakas say discussing the truth is very important. Sorry. Um, what is the use of discussing the truth? They say, ultimately, attaining Swarga is the greatest goal of life. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti abhipashchitaha vedavadarata partha nanyadasti iti vadinah na anyadasti iti vadinah कामात्मानः स्वर्गपरा जन्म कर्म फलप्रदाम क्रिया विशेष बहुलाम भोगैश्वर्य गतिम प्रति. So, so talking about the highest truth is not for the ignorant who are unqualified. That is explained in this verse. Uh, Just as spiritual discussion does not arise in daily mundane activities, okay, there are some things in chat box. Okay, there is a Srimad Bhagavatam Mahatmya verse. स्वर्गे सत्ये च कैलाशे वैकुंठे नास्त्ययम् रसः अतः पिबन्ति सद्भक्त्या मामा मुञ्चति कर्हिचित्. This nectar as found in Srimad Bhagavatam is not available in the heavens, Lord Brahma's or Lord Shiva's abode, not even in Vaikuntha. Therefore, oh dear real devotees, constantly drink this nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam again and again. Yeah. How to understand keeping Lord Nrsimhadev picture in the front wall or door of the house? I mean, okay, I don't know. Just as spiritual discussion does not arise in daily mundane activities which give visible results, so spiritual discussion certainly does not arise in Vedic statements manifesting prominently as a proliferation of sacrifices related to household life with unseen results known as karma. Why? Spiritual discussions are pure, without violence and without passion. They are different from discussions of Swarga. They are different from discussions of Swarga. Spiritual discussions do not generally arise in these statements. However, by performing those activities of the Vedas without desire for results and offering them to the Lord, and by knowledge and detachment, one can reach the spiritual platform. Okay. So therefore, Jadabharata is telling, yes, what you are telling may be intelligent, maybe according to the Shastras, no doubt. I am not denying that fact. But not all Shastras is relevant for transcendental elevation. Okay, not all Shastras is relevant for transcendental elevation. One should understand that. Okay. न तस्य तत्त्वग्रहणाय साक्षात् वरीयसीरपि वाचः समासन् स्वप्ने निरुक्त्या गृहमेधि सौख्यं न यस्य हेयानुमितं स्वयं स्यात्. Because he said that, oh, na karma, swakarmanam tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manava. Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita. You can perform your duty, and that performing your varnashrama duty is a kind of worship of the Supreme Lord. Like that he says. Okay. So, okay. So, that's what he says, that you said that worship of performing your duties as a king is a form of worship. He says, yeah, that is true. Krishna did say it in Bhagavad Gita, but that is not the way. uh, but that is not the way devotees worship Krishna. Okay. That form of a worship is recommended for those who have heavy inclination for karma. For those who have heavy inclination for karma, Krishna mercifully accepts that performance of karma as a type of secondary worship. Like we saw the example of worshipping uh, Indra to be the hand of Krishna, some other demigod to be the legs of Krishna, and some other demigod to be the eyes of Krishna. Uh, this is recommended in the Shastras, but not for practicing pure devotees. For practicing pure devotees, it is Yam Shama Sundara Machintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That is the form that is recommended. Otherwise, there are other forms of worship. Uh, 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 you know, what is that? Um, uh, Jnana chapyanye yajanto mam upasate ekatvena pratatvena bahuda vishvato mukam. Okay. So, so there are these kinds of worship, worship of the universal form, worship of these are recommended practices in the Shastras. But recommended for whom? Recommended for whom? That is very important. That is why the principle is Sweswe adhikare yanishta saguna parikirtitah viparyayastu doshasyad. One should understand one's adhikar and follow those practices according to one's adhikar. Okay. Uh, like that. So here he says, the man who by himself swayam na heya anumitam syat. The man who by himself cannot infer the inferiority of household life, whose happiness is just like a dream, cannot have access to Vedanta for understanding the highest truth. Okay, this is what Jadabharata is telling. Okay, that is what Jadabharata is telling. The man who by himself cannot infer the inferiority of household life. Household life means material life. Okay, that's what it means. Household life is material life. So, whose happiness is just like a dream. So, one who has not um, inferred the inferiority of household life, such a person cannot have access to Vedanta for understanding the highest truth. So, therefore, uh, you are talking proper Shastric statements, but which are on the platform of karma. So, unless you understand that karma is inferior, um, unless you understand that this karma is actually inferior, there is no point in talking to you about the higher subject matters. Okay. But Rahuguna may ask, but is it not impudent to say that you have a method of giving the karmis the truth, but then saying that you will not teach them? Okay. So, are you suggesting that you will not teach the truth to the karmis? He says, the words of the Vedanta are not at all suitable for all men, though those words are the best for directly understanding the highest truth. Then it becomes the ninth offense to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Okay. As in a dream which is momentary and false, the same men do not on their own infer the inferiority of the happiness of the household life. The happiness of the karmis is temporary, meager, and related to material objects. Adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Thus, the Atma does not have a relationship with this material happiness. This happiness is false for the Atma, like horns on a rabbit. Huh? The happiness of the Jnani, however, is eternal, not temporary, since it is related to Brahman. There is great difference between the two. This is the usage of giving out the highest truth. This is the use of giving out. Okay. Anyways, so to summarize what Jadabharata has spoken to Rahugana till now, uh, it is mentioned that, okay, so he says that though you are speaking like a learned man, you are a fool. Why? Because the wise do not speak of the material world by discerning it to be the truth. You are claiming the material world and its objects to be the concluding truths by giving the example of pot and sweet rice. But this example is inappropriate. Why? There is contact between fire and pot, but there is no connection between the liberated soul and the body. Therefore, fatigue of the body does not mean fatigue of the Atma for the liberated soul. Your inference fails as you cannot say that you, the conditioned soul, are the same as me, the liberated soul. That's why this you gave fantastic example, but that example does not apply to me. Okay. Perfect example, imperfectly applied. Okay. Perfect example, imperfectly applied. So it does not apply to me. So what you're saying is not true for me. Okay. But Ravaguna may say, oh, but the Vedas are filled with knowledge about living in this material world, isn't it? Jadabharat says, yes, that is true. But discussions on the absolute truth generally do not arise in the Vedas, which is filled with knowledge about proliferation of household life. This is because most people are not qualified for the knowledge about the absolute truth. Then the question is, so who is qualified and who is not qualified for understanding the absolute truth? He says, therefore, men who are engrossed in material household life and who cannot by themselves infer the inferiority of the household life cannot understand the subject matter of the absolute truth. Okay, like that. Okay. Okay. I think we will pause here and see if there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share, ask, add. Today is, the next few days are festival days. Uh, at least in Tamil Nadu, it's Pongal time. So there are some household duties also. So I may have to little bit finish little early. I will try not to, but still, anyways. So there are some questions in the chat box. Let's take them first. Okay. Even Srila Prabhupada recommended praying for Narsingadev for spiritual master's health. Yeah, one can pray, but the kind of prayer also Srila Prabhupada defined. Okay. He defined. He says, my dear Lord, if you so desire, let my spiritual master live and execute your mission. This was the prayer. He did not teach prayers such as, oh Narsingadev, please protect the hands, please protect the neck, please protect the eyes. This is not the kind of prayer that any of our acharyas taught actually. That does not mean these kind of prayers are not there in the Shastras. They are there. Even in Nectar of Devotion, Ganesh is mentioned. Okay, yeah, it is mentioned, but there is a context to it. The context is in mm, the context is in um, the 32 offenses, the seva aparads in that, where the offenses are quoted directly from Varaha Puran and Padma Puran. I think Varaha Puran and Vishnu Puran, one of these two Purana. So it's directly quoted from there. And in explaining that, Srila Jiva Goswami clarifies, for Vaishnavas, it is Vishwaksena, not Ganesh. Vishwaksena. Vishwaksena is a form of the uh, is a form of Lord Vishnu. Okay, like that. Okay, next question. What does fatigue of the soul means? One who is liberated soul in this world does not feel fatigue. His body may feel fatigue, but hmm, he may not feel fatigue. because he's not identifying with the body. Okay, like that. It seems that Shri Bharat Ji is giving knowledge beyond the status of the king who spoke from his level of adhikar. Is the sadhu trying to elevate his adhikar? What is his purpose? Yes, that is clearly the purpose. Because he sees that there is potential. Okay. He sees the potential in Rahuguna. But he also sees that there is the inertia of his past adhikar. There is inertia of karma adhikar, but a potential for bhakti adhikar. Therefore, even though there is resistance from Rahuguna, Jadabharta is trying to pull him. He said, yes, yes, what you say is right. Okay. Uh, Physics is definitely written in bold, but now just read below, read the questions. Okay. That's what he's telling. Ah, we heard Srila Prabhupada chanting Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Rakshamam, Rama Raghav, Rama Raghav, Rama Raghav, Pahimam. Yeah, that means protect me, protect me, protect me means protect my Krishna consciousness. That's what it means. Okay, how do we understand the ritualistic portions mentioned in the Hari Bhakti Vilas? Okay, so the ritualistic portions in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, see, we have to historically understand the role of Hari Bhakti Vilas. Okay, Hari Bhakti Vilas was, when the six Goswamis first came to Vrindavan, the first were probably, historically, when they came, there was no Gaudiya Vaishnavism. There was no known Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Okay. And so therefore there were no Gaudiya Vaishnava literatures also. So they had to kind of uh, merge and gain a footing in the Vrindavan Vaishnava scene. Okay. And there were a lot of in Vrindavan, there was in most cases there was the the karma influence was there. So Srila Sanatan Goswami had to write a literature of Vaishnava practices which seemed acceptable to the greater Vaishnava community there in Vrindavan. Okay. So therefore, if you see, and it has to be very attractive and comprehensive. So he wrote Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is very attractive, very comprehensive, and which involved practices which the Goswamis themselves did not practice. Okay. Which the Goswamis themselves did not practice. And it had the elements of karma in it. Okay. So Hari Bhakti Vilas, even though some sections of Hari Bhakti Vilas are quoted by the other acharyas, but when it comes to a rule book for Gaudiya Vaishnavas as to how they should conduct their own life on a day-to-day basis, they did not oftentimes refer to Hari Bhakti Vilas. Okay. Uh, they did not often refer to Hari Bhakti Vilas. Okay. So that was not like a role book or a rule book or a guideline book for the practicing Gaudiya Vaishnavas. It was never that way. It was more of, okay, let me compile something. It was more like, Baldev Vidyabhushan writing Govinda Bhashya. It was not necessary for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. It was not necessary for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, but it was needed for the Ramanandis. For the Ramanandis to accept Gaudiya Vaishnavism as a bona fide Vaishnava line, it was needed for them. So he wrote Govinda Bhashya. Okay. Uh, but it was not needed for the nourishment of uh, uh, the consciousness and the heart of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Uh, already, Gopal Champu was there, Ananda Vrindavan Champu was there, the other Krama Sandarbha written by Srila Jiva Goswami commentary was there. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur by then had written Sarartha Darshini, Sarartha Varshini. All those things were there. Uh, you know, but there was no need for, the, there was no need for a Vedanta Sutra commentary for the personal nourishment. But because the Ramanandis raised an issue, because they had stopped the worship of Radha and Krishna deities, so therefore, there was a need to do it. So similarly, Hari Bhakti Vilas was more of a it has more of a historical context. Okay. Um, mm, that is historical context. That was the book where which Sanatana Goswami compiled to create an impression, amongst the Vaishnavas that we are not very sectarian. We are here to be with all of you, coexist with all of you. But in reality, lot of what Srila Sanatana Goswami wrote in Hari Bhakti Vilas, he himself was not following. Like that. Of course, there are other details, but anyways. Often we hear a lot of monkhood talk by temple inmates to new boys with targeted aim to get some brahmacharis on deck. I have seen some boys messed up with career years spent serving at the ashram or the mission, only to be later left aside as ex-monks who are now misfits materially. Uh, I can understand what you're trying to communicate, but I am not able to understand the context in which this is mentioned. Govindari Prabhu, would you like to say what is the context of this?
Hare Krishna Ji, no problem.
Then Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, the context is again, this large scale misunderstanding or no understanding about adhikar and, adhikar relevant, knowledge being transferred or practiced.
Yeah.
So it is leading from, we have all these prayers in the Bhagavatam. Devotees are recommending somebody's child is sick. As a community,
Yeah.
everybody is chanting the
Yeah.
Narayan Kavach and everything. It's the symptom of the same, for the sake of a better word, same disease.
Yeah.
The people who are not relevant for the ashram, they have been preached very very vigilantly, and
Yeah,
and
I think
then
it is more of a misapplication of utility is the principal, mm, you know, principle.
yes, Prabhuji.
So they say, okay, utility is the principle. I mean, this is not the meaning of utility is the principle which Prabhupada said.
Yep.
Okay.
It may
So
in this context, utility is the principle means anything required can be made into a principle, and you have to adapt to it because utility is the principle.
yeah. So so the temple needs, so you preach to them and in such a way that we get more brahmacharis who can. Yeah, this can
And, and
backfire.
and the premise of this kind of preaching is condemnation of all other types, and looking down upon the other institution, or inferiority or whatever, disgust or some sense of repulsion to be created in the hearts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then these people live their entire bhakti life with that kind of impression. They look down
Hmm.
upon themselves when they're
Yeah.
out, they look down
Yes.
upon others when they're in. you
Yeah.
know
Exactly. Exactly. And when that guilt, and when they can no longer carry that guilt anymore, then they leave the institution completely
Yep, so that's the escape route final,
because guilt is too heavy to carry. So, yeah, that's true.
Yes, Ruji, that's all.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thank you.
much.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, how King Rahugana will perform his duties without being at bodily consciousness, thinking himself as a king to serve the praja? I mean, even though externally it seems like Jadabharata is discouraging Rahugana to perform his kingly duties, what Jadabharata is telling is that is not the only platform. You come to the spiritual platform also. So, um, so the statements of Jadabharata are not practically refuting whatever Rahuguna is telling, even though he is speaking as if he is refuting. But that does not mean that Jadabharata's or Rahuguna's arguments are invalid arguments. They are valid arguments, but just that Jadabharata is trying to raise him to a higher level. That's all. Okay, next question. Speaking of adhikar, my adhikar is only up to the capacity of my strength of faith, and the gap between strength and purity of faith has to be understood as struggle for purification. Tolerating emotions of disappointment, frustration, fear, etc., even within the devotee community for not being able to fully experience love of Godhead. I don't understand exactly what you're talking about. I'll get back to you, Prabhu. Hopefully, you can raise your hands and then we'll get back to you. How does one change from one adhikar to another adhikar? Is it just through association? Yeah, generally it's through association. Yeah. Uh, but of course, but from going from karma adhikar to jnana adhikar has to come from uh, sincere practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga. And by that, there has to be sufficient purification of heart. And when the purification of heart happens, then one becomes qualified for Jnanadhikar. It is not just by association. In that association, one should practice also. Bhakti Adhikar is achieved exclusively by association. And within Bhakti Adhikar, of course, there are levels of Bhakti Adhikar, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, etc. Yeah. Shyam Sundaranand Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanavad Pranam.
Dhanavad Prabhu.
Thank you very much. Prabhuji, sorry, I'm in no qualification to talk anything else on this. Just for understanding sake, I'm asking.
Yeah.
The, we have the scriptural injunctions and we have our practical, what do you call? I don't say practical, it is daily, day-to-day life. Right?
Mhm.
And then when we are reading the scriptural injunctions, just as what Jadabharat is saying to Rahugana, and we discussed this also, that Rahugana is perfectly playing the role of a king and is asking relevant and pertinent questions.
Mhm.
And Jadabharat is citing injunctions from the higher perspective of
Yeah.
elevating his consciousness and all.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, having said that, what Rahugana has to live after this conversation is his regular life.
Yeah.
And maybe after he is absolved of his kingly duties, then
Mhm.
he can focus on the instructions of Jadabharat, or when he is no longer the position of a king or whatever. So he could actually perfectly follow what Jadabharat is saying. So
Mhm.
my question here is, like in any injunction, like
Mhm.
whether it is um, I mean, I don't want to quote anyone, but they say that there are two ends of the pendulum. One is conservationalism and conservation, conservative, and then another is liberalism.
Mhm.
So the conservative and the healthy thing is a balance in between both. So when we
Mhm.
take our these instructions or whatever discussions we are having in this slide, so we may
Mhm.
have to have a healthy balance. So if we have to weigh every situation of life in the scriptural, with respect to the scriptural injunctions, or like the quotes of the acharyas,
Mhm.
so sometimes, of course, the principle has to be maintained. So the
Mhm.
essence of the thing, whatever the parampara is saying, we should never
Mhm.
deviate from that. So there are
Mhm.
non-negotiable items,
Mhm.
and there are some things which are details, which necessary are not mentioned in the scriptures. So
Yeah, but it will be definitely be mentioned by the acharyas.
yes, but not every detail should be mentioned, right? Can be mentioned. So the
So,
context in which the acharyas.
Can you give an example of a detail which is not a principle? I mean, not a principle, but just a
No, for
detail, but
example,
not given.
now there is a talk for Narayana Kavacha or Narasimha Kavacha. So these things are there. So nobody is, of course, those people who are chanting Narasimha Kavacha or Narayan Kavacha, they are not saying that this is like this is to be followed in a karmakandic way or something like that. But
But
the
the
whole
prayer itself
objective
is
of this
the
prayer,
prayer itself is that.
no, the prayer itself is like that. The whole objective of the prayer, the chanter of the prayer, and the request for those prayers are only to keep the, to for the good health of the
Agreed.
devotees,
Agreed.
right?
Agreed. I
So
am not denying that fact. I am not denying that fact. But what I am concerned with is, see, try to understand there is uh, mm, there is no problem if out of genuine concern for the devotee, they are chanting Narsingha Kavach or Narayan Kavach prayers. I don't have a problem with that. But there is a deeper problem.
mhm.
The deeper problem is, where did these recommendations come from? I have a problem with that. And if this is not stopped, then what else is going to be introduced? I have a problem with that. There is no problem when people feel genuinely concerned about other Vaishnavas or their own spiritual master and chant prayers to please the Lord. That is very much appreciated. Now, the point is not about that expression of that concern, but the point is the form of that expression of concern. Newer and newer ideas are coming. Where are they coming from? What is the source of those ideas? And on what basis those ideas are accepted as bona fide? I have a problem with that. And if this is not stopped right here, what can it lead to? That is my concern.
So basically, you are addressing the deviations which can happen because of the genuine concern.
Yeah. See, no one is doubting the intentions of the devotees. Never. I would go to hell for that. But the point is, now all good intentions need not result in bona fide practices. So, so this is my concern. Where did this come from? If Prabhupada did not introduce it, who introduced it and why? On what basis? This is the problem. Did Prabhupada say, all of you chant Narsingha Couch prayers or Narayan Couch prayers? Now you may say that, Arey yaar, don't be so conservative. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm very conservative. But the point is, if you open the door and what else is going to come in and from where?
Mm.
Hmm. So that is my, uh,
So I
that
mean
is,
that is a whole point of discussion also, right? Right.
see, one
To
thing,
what extent can we expand? Yeah.
yeah,
To what?
I will tell
Yeah.
you one thing about conservative and liberal.
Mhm.
Everyone feels that their pendulum is in the middle only,
Mm. Okay. Agreed.
isn't it? It is
Yes.
only from other people's perspective that their pendulum is on this side or that side, either the
Yes.
liberal side or the conservative side. You ask any person, he'll say,
Mm.
Prabhu, the pendulum has to be in the middle. Everyone will agree with that. And everyone feels that their perspective is the middle perspective.
But where is the actual? So we have to grow as a movement together. When
I'm not
so
denying the fact, but that
yeah.
does not mean homogeneous.
Yes, but it need not be homogeneous. It can be heterogeneous, but it also can be in a way like in the name of being. I mean, as I said, on one the one end thing is like we want to protect the chastity and the purity of the parampara.
Yeah.
So in that say that okay, you said this. Is there in the Shastras anywhere quoted by Srila Prabhupada? Is there quoted by anyone bona fide? Yes,
Mm,
no. Then we will say that okay, not. Then we will reject. But
mm.
that is what happening in the greater society also. Like nowadays, we people are asking questions. and some people are getting disillusioned by this approach, and then like I am not saying that this approach is wrong. So when this approach is misunderstood, it backfires and people are leaving, right? And those people who who are seemingly accepting everything, they are getting acknowledged, and but what they give after that is like it could be a compromised solution. So
Yeah.
where is the balance between both? Like that is the question.
So the point is, uh, you know, the point is, Prabhupada felt that he himself could be seen as a very conservative person.
Mhm.
Didn't he himself say that?
Yes, he
Prabhupada
did.
did say that if I relaxed even one of these
Yes,
principles, so many people would come,
yes, he did.
but I will not relax, he said.
Yeah, but if you see Prabhupada's implementation of what he did in ISKCON is
Mhm.
he implemented so many things which are unheard of even in the, I mean, the Gaudiya Vaishnava mission,
For
right? Which
example,
was started by. No, I'm saying giving initiation to Westerners, Matajis, and
because no one had
some.
ever gone to the Western world.
Correct, but that is what. So no one has gone
But
now.
Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a Western disciple whom he had initiated.
Yeah, yeah. So see, I am not here, you know, to actually contradict everything what we are speaking. What I am asking is like the contextual things during Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's time, during Prabhupada's times, they varied from time to time, and today it is like different. The generational
So,
gap
so
was
during
decades before.
so during Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, um, uh, Narayan Kavach or Narsingha Kavach prayers were mixed devotional prayers, and during Prabhupada's time, the context has changed and they have now become pure devotional prayers.
No, 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 no. I am not saying that. No. What I am all I am trying to say is like this is just one example I have cited. So the principle of adjusting things according to the time and place, that is what I am talking
I
about.
agree with that point. I agree with
Yeah.
that point. So the
Yeah.
point is, okay, here the context, okay, let us bring it to the topic of discussion here. The
Yes.
topic of discussion is that scriptures, not every statement of the scriptures is meant for pure devotees to follow. Is that a principle or a detail?
It's a principle.
Okay. Swe swe adhikare yanishta saguna parikirtita. Is that a principle or a detail?
Detail, I believe.
So, okay, I will give the meaning of that verse. Swe swe
Yeah.
adhikare yanishta saguna parikirtita means uh, one should perform activities according to their adhikar. And when the activities are performed according to their adhikar, it is a favorable action. And when the activities is against their adhikar, it is an unfavorable action. Okay,
It could be. It can principle.
it's a principle. So
Hmm.
now we are just talking about principle. We are not talking about detail. So uh, yes, I do agree and very much understand that details have to be adjusted.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and how it needs to be spoken with individual people and communicated that, okay. Again, we had this discussion before about Siddhanta and Sadachar. So, are we discussing Siddhanta or are we discussing Sadachar? So, how it needs to be communicated is a different thing. Okay. That 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 has to be definitely sensitively done. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam prehitam chayat. Yes, I agree with that point. So here we are not talking about um, Sadachar here. We are talking about Siddhanta. Whether a particular prayers, particular sections, even within Bhagavatam, are meant for pure devotees to be chanted as a part of their sadhana, or not is what we are discussing right now. So
No,
that
I completely agree that point, Prabhuji. So even in Bhagavatam there are sections like which are like Mishra, all these things, and that I am not in any disagreement for that.
yeah,
But this Siddhanta and Sadachar also, if you see, they're connected. So one is
I'm
supposed to
not
influence further.
I agree. I agree completely. They are not disconnected, they are very much connected. But sometimes when we are discussing Siddhanta, then we have to, even though they are connected, like two parts of a mathematical problem, even though they are connected, but sometimes you have to take part one and solve it, and part two and solve it, and then connect it. Okay.
Hmm.
So in the same way, you have to understand, okay, what is right, what is wrong. Okay, what is Siddhantically right, what is Siddhantically wrong. Then the question comes, how do you communicate? How do you deal with when you see an apparent contradiction from the Siddhantic perspective? Okay. So that needs to be that comes under Sadachar, and even though it is connected, I very much agree that it is connected. Siddhanta and Sadachar are very much interwoven. But then when we are exclusively discussing Siddhanta for clarity purpose, you have to discuss it. And then when it comes to how do you deal with someone who may not have the same Siddhantic stance, do you go and fight with him? Do you go and criticize him? That is that is a whole different discussion. Even though
Yeah,
they are connected, So here we are purely discussing it from a Siddhantic perspective.
yeah. So yeah, I am able to understand what you are trying to say, bro. I think so. Um, um, all I am trying to say is like the this is needed. Like this kind of discussions are needed because it should actually sink into our conscience about the chastity to the parampara and the clearer understanding of the principle of bhakti. All these things are needed. So as this say that, as they say that, right, like it's like two edge of this, you know, this thing, the razor. So one edge would actually cut the ignorance, and the other edge would actually also can have a bleed of our this thing, if not because it's the same way as jnana, right? One who is a fully jnani, then that makes his heart hard. No, absolute knowledge is good, but it also has a side effect of making the heart hard. So that is
Exactly,
what.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, again, when see every principle has that problem, whether it is conservatism or
Yeah.
liberalism or
Yes.
neutralism.
Yes.
Okay, both are
Yes.
two-edged swords. Okay,
Yes.
so all three principles have to be applied with sensitivity.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that I totally agree. I am not denying that fact at all. So for that reason, every principle needs to be discussed. This principle has to be the other edge of the sword has to be discussed for every single principle that we are discussing. Okay.
Yeah.
Even for humility, you have to discuss the other edge of the,
Correct.
people will say that, okay, if you are too humble, people will come and trample upon you and all that. That
Hmm.
then you have to discuss, oh, Narada Muni said, I asked you not to bite. I did not
Hmm.
ask you to not hiss. So you can hiss like that. He gave that instruction to, you know, uh,
Hmm.
Kailash,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Correct. Kailash.
like that. So that is there. That principle is there. Definitely, how do you apply this principle in a sensitive way is always there. That is definitely there. But that does not mean you take a principle of, okay, you are also right, you are also right, you are also right, you are also right. Everyone is right. Okay. We can accommodate everyone within ISKCON. It is not like it. Yeah, we can accommodate everyone within ISKCON, but we have a clear understanding of what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah,
Of course,
I think that requires so much of maturity and so much of this thing. I mean, compassion towards the other person to hear
of
everything. And
course.
yeah.
Yes, yes. That is definitely needed. Compassion is needed. Willingness to hear and understand the other person is needed. That is very much needed. Yeah. So we are not debating. We are not telling whoever chants Narayan Kavach is a mixed devotee. We are not telling like that. Okay.
Yeah, actually, that is the point. Actually,
That's
when
not okay.
when
Yeah.
we
Okay. Let me clarify that. So that
yeah
does not mean whoever is chanting Narayan Kavach is a mixed devotee. I'm openly clarifying it. So
yeah
that is why if you had been in this forum for long enough, so
yeah
someone says that when when the okay, questions have been asked like this to me. So when I say, okay, this is mixed devotion, this is pure devotion, then people say that, then the question comes from the other side generally. Prabhu, I have seen that this person speaks like this or does like this. Is he a mixed devotee? Generally my answer is insufficient data. I cannot answer this question. That's how I answer. And I really mean it that way. Because
Hmm.
sometimes people do something, they don't really mean it. People oftentimes do something which they really don't know the meaning of it. People sometimes do just because someone has told them to do. Okay. So I said insufficient data. I cannot answer this question with the amount of data that you have furnished. I have to spend time with that person, understand him, his thought process, what is there within his heart, and only then I can come to a conclusion. With the amount of data that you have furnished, I cannot tell whether he is a mixed devotee or a pure devotee. This has always been my stance. So, but when if you ask me whether Narayan Kavach prayers or Narsinga Kavach prayers are pure devotional prayers which devotees should chant, my answer is no.
Hmm.
But does it mean that the devotees who are chanting it are mixed devotees? I would say unlikely. In some cases, it may be. In many cases, it may not necessarily be. That would be my answer. That is insufficient data. We need to understand that person much more deeply to come to such a conclusion. We cannot conclude from this kind of from the amount of data that is furnished.
So the practicing, this is the final thing. What is the take home for me for the practicing pure devotees who still not have attained that level of nishtha or anardhani vritti is not yet gone.
Mhm.
So what is the recommendation for the practicing pure devotees? So whether
For the
they should,
prac
yeah.
Yeah, for the practicing pure devotee, when it comes to myself, I understand these prayers are mixed devotional. When it comes to
Hmm.
others, I understand insufficient data. That's all.
Okay.
And when someone else asks you, should I chant
Hmm.
these prayers? You can
Hmm.
say, no, not needed. Prabhupada said, just
Hmm.
chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and just
Hmm.
chant, uh, you know, Tavakara Kamalavare. That is good enough. That's all. But if
Okay.
Prabhuji, but else is chanting, are they mixed devotees? My answer
Hmm.
is, I don't know. No, probably not. I would even say probably not. I need to know more about them. I need to know more about them to come to such a conclusion. Based on whatever details you have furnished, it is insufficient data. I cannot say. I cannot conclude that they are mixed devotees. That is my answer.
Yeah, I actually used to chant this, and I also used to recommend this to Narasimha Kavacha
Mhm.
to the devotees.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But
I
still,
mean,
I will
yeah,
not conclude that you are a mixed devotee.
no, that's fine. I mean, I can, I'm not, shy of admitting my this thing. But I just was wondering, like, because all that, even in Mayapur and everything, this is like as a recommended practice, I mean, not recommended practice. I mean, this is an implemented practice, so right? And sometimes it's a suggestive thing for Guru Maharaj health and all. So this kind of thing was done, and
I
yeah,
cannot,
yeah.
I will choose not to comment on this, bro.
Okay, okay,
Okay. Because
yeah.
often you have been a part of a temple.
Hmm.
Okay. You have been a
Hmm.
part of a temple, or maybe at least, and you have been in touch with a couple of them, maybe more.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Oftentimes, those kind of decisions are not taken necessarily in conjunction, in consultation with uh, those who are uh, generally shastrically grounded, not necessarily all the time. I'm not telling it is never done, but it is generally, it is not necessarily done that way. So therefore, such conclusions, I cannot, what is
I'm
popularly,
not concluding. I'm not concluding.
yeah.
I'm just. Uh, I mean, it's not a.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a.
oftentimes,
Yeah.
because there is a pressure for a fund generation, there is a pressure for so many things. So therefore, those things take precedence because for the functioning of the temple and those kind of things, those things. If see that is why there is a Shastric Advisory Council. Okay,
Mhm.
so to understand what exactly is the recommendation of the Shastra. Okay, what
Mhm.
exactly is the recommendation of the Shastra? So they don't say that, okay, what is the popular opinion? Okay, what does Greater ISKCON do? So the
Mhm.
Greater ISKCON may do so many things.
Mhm.
Okay, okay, but but why there is a Shastric Advisory Council to say, okay, whatever the Greater ISKCON may do, but what is it that Prabhupada did? What is it that the Shastras recommend? Okay,
Mhm.
so that is there. That's the point.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I took long time.
Okay. Yes. There are some things in the chat box. Let's take them first. I used to ask people who suffer from chronic disease to chant. I'm okay. It's okay. Uh, you can ask them to. Prabhupada generally said chant uh, Tavakara Kamalavare prayers. Okay. And pray to Narsingadev. The way the prayer itself is like Narsingadev. If you so desire, you may protect the devotee. So we can follow that. We don't have to change it. Even I also advise to chant Narsinga Kavach daily by one of the devotees. So I'm feeling. Should I continue or not? And I answered this question. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm not against Narsinga Kavach. Please don't get me wrong. Okay. So, yes, Pavana Gaurang Prabhu.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is in the first text, it is there mentioned that Rahugana gave the example of that fire and the pot and the milk in the rice. Now, immediately Jadabharata is telling that, is denying that fact. You are speaking about the material things, right, Prabhu? Uh, like why? Because you are speaking about the material things, about the material world. Why? Because the soul will not be come under these elements. That's why he is denying that fact. True, is it audible?
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu. Yes, yes, I'm hearing you. You finish your
Yeah, yeah,
question, then I will talk.
yeah. Now my question is here. So actually, soul is there within the periphery of our body only, but still, how it is not getting affected? How we can understand, Prabhu? Like we also many times gives the example of that no dream. You are in the dream state, that when you come out from the dream, you will understand the reality. But normally in our consciousness state also, we always there, soul is there within that body itself. Then how it is not able to affect, getting affected by that? I want to know about this thing, bro.
Yeah. So the person who is in the dream, the Shastras give this exact same example. The person who is in the dream cannot realize that the dream is false. Okay. But the person who has woken up from the sleep, he can realize that the dream is false. And he does not identify with that dream situation as if he was experiencing the dream situation. He remembers, oh, this is what I dreamt of. Like that, he remembers. But he does not actually identify with the dream and with the dream situation. So, this is the difference between uh, the uh, a liberated soul and the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is identifying with the dream. The liberated soul, he remembers, oh, this is what I dreamt of, but he is not identifying with the dream. So, what Rahugana is telling, What Jadabharata is telling, that the example that you gave is perfect for a conditioned soul. But this is not perfect for a liberated soul like myself. That's what he's telling.
But I understand that. But how the soul is not getting affected, that how we can understand that? Like theoretically, we will say that as a dream, but how it is not getting affected, being in the five elements of that grass body,
Okay,
how
I
it
will
is
ask
not
the
getting
same
affected?
question to you. How the Paramatma staying within the same body is not getting affected?
That only I want to know, bro.
Huh?
That only that the conscious,
So,
so
see,
uh,
that's what. There are certain things, um, if let's say you are learning a particular subject which you are very, very poor at, you know, you cannot even properly understand, basic algebra, and someone is trying to teach you calculus. Everyone is solving, you are unable to understand what is dy by dx only, what is this sin x, what is the cos x, and all those things you cannot understand. So it will be, you'll be wondering, how is this possible? Okay. Because the same is with us, like, you know, how is it possible for the soul to not get affected by the gross body and subtle body surrounding it? This will be very inconceivable for us. It is all theoretical knowledge only for us. Why? Because we have always lived in the material world. So this is difficult. So, therefore, only a theoretical answer can be given. For more practical answers, then as Krishna says, yata yatatma parimrujyate so matpunya gata shravanabhidanaihi. Tata tata pashyati vastu sukshmam. Chakshur yataivanjana samprayuktam. To the extent that one progresses on the path of devotional service and the heart becomes cleansed more and more, to that extent, the spiritual reality will become more and more clearer. So till then, we have to only accept it theoretically.
so theoretically anyway, we can accept that now whatever we are identifying with this body and everything, as we are thinking in the dream, that much theoretically we need to understand.
Yeah, yeah,
To realize it, we need to really practice, or else we need to have that mercy of the parampara and all those
yeah,
things.
yeah,
Is that
yeah, yeah,
okay?
yeah,
So one more. Okay, I think we don't have time. I have another
yeah.
question.
Time is up, and there has been one question in the chat box for a long time. I will just take that and we will end it.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay.
okay. Not sure if appropriate to be asked here. Please. Okay. The gurus are aware that, and they are allowing the disciples to chant those prayers and do the yagyas on mass scale also. What could be the reason? If they clarify, then won't it become easy? I don't know. I cannot. Okay, I'm not very sure about it. Uh, it's a valid point. Uh, I mean, there could be many reasons. I can come up with one reason. Probably I can think about it. Maybe that's a valid reason. Maybe it is not. Okay. Okay. Anyways, I will not speculate. Uh, okay. You or me saying it will not have the value if their sreshtas are not saying the same thing. Yeah, I agree with this point. Uh, yeah, but why they are allowing that to happen? Yeah, I don't wish to speculate on that. Maybe there could be many reasons. Well, one thing is you cannot tell it for others. Okay. Don't do it for such and such Maharaj, doing yajnas, because it can be misconstrued by immature disciples that, oh, maybe this guru is, why is this guru asking his and others disciples to not do yajna for that guru? Like that, it can be misconstrued. In a multi-guru system, you have to be very, very careful, because all the gurus may be extremely mature and extremely advanced, but the same thing cannot be told about their disciples. How it could be construed by the immature disciples is a very big issue. So that could be one of the reasons. So I'll leave it there and we will continue this discussion tomorrow. So thank you all very much for your patient listening and your enthusiastic participation. शिल प्रभुपाद की जय, शिल विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर पाद की जय, श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। हरे कृष्ण। थैंक यू वेरी मच।